right, welcome to round number 10 at Magic Spotlight Secret Lairs, our first round on day 2. Both of our undefeated players here, both Burke, Methena on Azorius Affinity, and Lee Webb on Mardu Energy on 6-card hands, as Methena still has a quite explosive start. We see a Bridge, a Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble.
Shadow Spear.
Okay, Shadow Spear is less exciting than the rest of this stuff, but it's still a play.
I was about to say, I think this is a deck that is just happy to get onto the table and make sure that it's spending all of its mana every turn.
Yes. And we're talking about trying to cast a Kappa Cannoneer. Every artifact to help you cast your spells counts.
And the nice thing about Racertide Bridge is it is indestructible. So this is something that's a little bit more insulated against the various wear tears of the world.
Webb at a bit of a permanent deficit, 1 to 5, but is going to start with the Surveil Land, fetching up Elegant Parlor.
Well, a deficit of permanence. It's hard to tell what the permanence of this deficit is going to be, you know?
Very meaningfully, Methena's second land there is Urza Saga. With the Mox, Construct mana already would be online when we get to Chapter 2.
In a lot of ways, the fact that Burke has not cracked this Mishra's Bauble is a real sign of strength.
Yeah, doesn't need it. Wants the artifact. Speaking of wanting something, Webb's going to keep a card on top, and Methena's going to take a look with that Mishra's Bauble now.
Fair enough. I love the Kaladesh Invention Mox Opal. It just looks so nice.
Oh, yeah. Another thing making me reminiscent for the Ornithopter era. Another beautiful masterpiece.
That's one of those cards I just want to have to look at.
Yes. Webb's going to shock in a Blood Crypt as land number 2, the Mardu Energy, or Mardu Mana, rather, in online. Goblin Bombardment. And that's going to hit a Metallic Rebuke from Methena.
Ooh, Shadow Spear? Tapping for a mana, sort of?
You can use your artifacts to help you cast this spell.
Little Fallout Spire of Industry, pass the turn. Why would Burke need to play anything?
No, those constructs are waiting in the wings.
As 4/4s.
Yikes. Potential to gain lifelink also available with that Shadow Spear just hanging out.
Yeah, and again, I cannot emphasize enough how strong both lifelink and trample are in this matchup.
Yeah, you end up with a lot of tokens with the Mardu deck, but chump blockers are not going to be what the Doctor ordered. We'll see what Webb can present as he'll crack an Arid Mesa down to 16. Contemplating the ramifications of finding a shock land here.
Right, I think we're seeing Godless Shrine is the card that he's peering at.
Also considering a Surveil Land.
So much to do, so much to see, so he's fetching Shadowy Backstreet.
Lands on black-white goes with the Surveil Land, the Shadowy Backstreet, as you referenced.
Wow, wow.
Gonna surveil one here before deciding what to cast. If anything.
In a lot of ways, this is just something where if you know you're going to do it anyway, kind of getting a more informed version of your turn is helpful.
That makes sense. Ocelot Pride. Surveilled to the bin. Here comes a Johnny. Johnny often looks very strong, but here comes that 4/4 construct, like you said. Urza Saga is going to go to Chapter 3. We're going to see a second construct with that on the stack, it looks like. Not too surprising there.
Whew. All right, so 5/5s, about to be 6/6s.
With the Shadow Spear already on the battlefield, there's a few more options for takes here. I assume the default, we often see something like Mishra's Bauble. Here's Lava Spear Boots, though, hasting up that construct.
Right. This is that one card game plan, the ability to turn the corner on a dime. Burke has not declared an attack yet, right? Lee is at 16. Being able to give the fresh construct haste for a single mana is going to give it, what, a 7th power? This is a crunch for 13?
Yikes.
Okay. Okay.
There's that equipment. Here is the attack. Webb will elect to chump block with the cat token.
Hey, this is maybe the only time that Webb is going to get to chump block.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that Shadow Spear is waiting. 6 points comes across. Webb down to 10. Johnny will transform.
Webb lacking a red permanent at the moment, other than the Ajani itself. So not that the token ability is too shabby. Getting a 2/1 every turn, pretty nice, but
Ooh,
hard for it to do much.
Speaking of pretty nice, here's the backup Mox Opal, and here's Portable Hole on that Ajani.
Ooh.
In the games we watched yesterday, Ajani was really taking over all of them. Ajani was convincingly less impactful than just that Urza's Saga in this game.
Right.
See what Webb can do to try to claw his way out of this.
3 mana. Seasoned Pyromancer is really all that plays here. Flage is not close to enough life gain.
No, especially just playing the front side. Webb's going to crack a Bloodstained Mire down to 9. See if we're looking for a mana-producing land or maybe another Surveil. It's going to be a basic mountain.
Yeah, pretty sharp of Webb last game to not go for the shock land. And identifying pretty quickly, oh, I can't actually check that Urza's Saga immediately. I might need to start thinking about my life total.
Right. Yeah, that Portable Hole also increasing the size of the constructs.
Casual 15 sitting on the table.
That's
no
it?
creature spells cast this game.
Right, here's Seasoned Pyromancer. Webb will discard 2 cards. Probably really wants 2 tokens here. Flage?
Okay.
Right. Like, is that 2 Flages on the discard?
Yeah, that's 2 Flages. Something like an Arena of Glory is a way to actually gain a ton of life if Webb were to find it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Webb gets another turn. You know, this black-white land being untapped suggests he could have something like Fatal Push, try to get through. Not just die outright to this Shadow Spear.
Fatal Push is crucial. Though, Lava Spur Boots giving Ward 1. Huge in this spot.
Oh, yeah.
We might see Fatal Push go after a construct just to reduce the artifact count by 1.
It isn't pretty, but you do what you got to do.
Listen, I 1 life is so much more than 0 life.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to talk about a 1-point difference in life total. 0 to 1. Really the most significant one. All right, Webb considering the options here. Perhaps thinking if he has to act now with that mana. Already been Metallic Rebuked once this game.
Right, there's also the point where if you think you might just have to go after the construct to reduce things by 1, you might just want to cast another creature for a white mana instead. Something like a Guide of Souls.
Sure. Back over to Methena. Start things off with a Thought Monitor.
1 mana, draw 2 cards, get a 2/2. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds pretty good to me. Pump the constructs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8
Do
artifacts.
we appreciate?
We appreciate putting Shadow Spear on our Ward construct. That one's going to be 10 power now by my count.
Give or take.
Right, another Mox Opal is going to Legend Rule itself into play.
Oh!
Webb's going to respond to that with Fatal Push, taking care of the other construct.
All right, construct down to a 9/8 now.
When you're stock cast, oh yeah.
Why settle for 4 thought casts?
Methena has now drawn 5 cards this turn. And here comes the robot. Construct chucking in, I believe, 9 power now after that other construct was destroyed.
It's a working person's attack for lethal.
Yeah, you got to block with something. And that trample from the Shadow Spear will make it not that enticing of a proposition. Webb blocks with the Seasoned Pyromancer. Down to 2. Methena jumps to 29.
There's something liberating about a game being about one thing. where you just know, okay, here it is. This is the construct. This is good enough or it is not good enough.
Right. The land for Webb is Arid Mesa, no Arena of Glory, but we'll be escaping this Flage.
It is not clear to me if Flage even could attack if there were an Arena of Glory.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense as Webb goes up to 5, and that Flage is looking like it's on blocking duty, as you're kind of suggesting there.
But this is the strength of the card, and why Flage is so strong in the deck is it is really good at life totals in general. Sometimes it is about grinding and killing creatures, but so frequently, this is what, going to soak up 9 damage here?
Well, it would have if not for this Ether Spell Bomb, as Burke Methena going to convincingly take down game number 1 there.
Oh, Aether Spellbomb being the card that wins the game for the Affinity deck is just, take me back.
Very satisfying stuff as players are going to reach for their sideboards. So it looks like Lee Webb on Mardu Energy might need a little bit of help. What's he going to reach for here?
I think a lot of what Webb really cares about is being able to slow down the game and actually break up some of the things that are actual heavy hitters on Methena's side. I know we've talked a bit about redundancy and raw cardboard, but Methena does not have a high card count of cards that can actually win a game. Right, so Urza's Saga, Kappa Cannoneer are great things at dealing damage, but everything else is kind of what we affectionately refer to as air, where they just don't actually contribute it to anything but giving you more cardboard. So I think things that check those cards are going to be big. Those are cards like Fatal Push. I could see Dreams of Steel and Oil being huge at exiling Kappa Cannoneer specifically. Wear Tear is a card that's really good at checking Urza's Saga and a Construct token. So is Wrath of the Skies. I could even see a world in which Orm's Chant comes in at just blanking an attacker for a turn. I think it is somewhat unlikely, but I don't think it's completely outlandish. I suspect there are a lot of cards in the space of Ragavan that we're going to see Webb really just want to get out of his deck.
Sure. Do you see any argument for a card like Vindicate in a matchup like this, or?
I think you could reach for it if you really want to, but for the most part, I think it's 2 mana inefficient a majority of the time. If this were an Urza's Saga deck without Mox Opal, there are worlds where when you are on the play, you can tag an Urza's Saga that way if you think Urza's Saga is the most important card. Mm-hmm. But given that, just like last game, we saw Methena able to just say, okay, well, I'm going to play Urza's Saga, only have one other land in play, and comfortably start cranking out constructs. I don't really think we're going to see Webb go for that here.
Sure. And certainly if there's a game 3, seems way too slow on the draw.
Exactly.
On Burke Methena's side of things, for Azorius Affinity, sure seems to be positioned against these energy-style decks. How much is going on the sideboard for him?
I don't think very much is going to change here. There are some cards that I suspect we're going to see Methena trying to get out of the deck. So there are a couple of main deck Force of Negations that don't really play against the quote-unquote zoo-esque, we'll say vibes of the energy deck that Webb has. So I kind of expect to see Force of Negations get cut, Whip Flares come in, and Methena try and just have the second burst be the same as the first.
Seeing some pretty cool stuff in Modern this weekend, and I'm pretty intrigued to see the impact that we might see from the upcoming Magic release. That's going to be Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy. I'm so hyped for this.
Oh, yeah. This set's just really cool. I also love, speaking of a little artifact package, Cloud, really giving you the ability to play a bunch of different artifacts, even in Standard. So sick.
I'm kind of wondering if it might be Hammer time with Cloud hitting the scene.
Oh.
Not my kind of deck, really, but yeah, exactly. You can pre-order Final Fantasy now at starcitygames.com/mtg-fin. Fine? Probably shouldn't pronounce it fine because it's spelled Fin. Anyway.
Yeah, that one's complicated. I started to say, no, it's not that, but it is Final Fantasy, so.
It's Final Fantasy. You see players consulting deck lists here for day number 2 of competition in these tournaments. We get into open deck list territory. Day 1 was closed deck list.
Yeah, I really love the package that we have for Urza's Saga out of Methena's deck. I think there are a bunch of really cool one-ofs, a bunch of them that we saw in that last game just getting drawn the good old-fashioned way, like Aether Spellbomb and Shadow Spear. There's also a copy of Haywire Might. So this is a card that there aren't actually any cards that I'd say have a green color identity in Methena's version of Affinity, but between Mox Opal and Spire of Industry, it isn't that hard to make green mana over the course of a long game. And I think one of the ways that we see these energy decks turn the corner really on a dime in their own way is Flage. That's something we've seen a lot, and Goblin Bombardment. So having a way to reliably answer the card Goblin Bombardment that doesn't really cost you that much is pretty attractive.
Yeah, and we actually saw Methena act really quickly using a Metallic Rebuke on Goblin Bombardment in Game 1. The life totals never really looked close in that game, but to your point, Goblin Bombardment is one of those cards that can really explode a lot of damage out of nowhere.
Yeah, and you speaking about the life totals never looking close, I think actually does a good job of segueing into something where the life totals aren't always the whole story, right? Where I talked a bit before about a lot of the deck just sort of being air, and a lot of the power of this Affinity deck being concentrated into individual threats. If Webb had been able to say, Fatal Push a Construct token that had the Shadow Spear on it, all of a sudden, there's a Flage in play, Webb has 9 more life, Methena has 9 less life. The game looks pretty close in that world if it weren't for the Ward 1. So I don't know. I can really see Goblin Bombardment, especially if you do the block sacrifice song and dance, doing a lot in the matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Been really enjoying being a part of the Spotlight series this weekend. And if you're enjoying watching and you think that these players are having fun playing, I'm sure that they are, you might consider joining us for another upcoming Spotlight event in SCGCon Orlando, where we'll be featuring Planetary Rotation. This is going to be the release of Edge of Eternities. We're going to see a big rotation in Standard. It's going to be a fresh format. It's going to be very exciting to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, one of the best parts of these events in general is how an open field can lend itself to a broader range of deck diversity. That's cranked up to 11. Right after Standard Rotation. These events are awesome. People are bringing all kinds of new brews, maybe something that was held back by a card or two that was in the format for a long time, now rotates, and all of a sudden you can think to yourself, I think these cards from Bloomborough that didn't rotate, like maybe it's time to dust off this rat deck or something like that, and you have a good time.
You can find details on that at starcitygames.com/SCGCon. Of course, plenty of fun side events. You can meet and greet with various artists as well. Plenty of artists here in attendance in Indianapolis this weekend. See players getting ready for game number 2.
Looking over on website, I think something that he was really missing in that first game was just finding a way to stick a threat on the battlefield. Missing something to do for the first turn or two really put him on the back foot on top of being on the draw.
Right. The turn 1 Surveil land on the draw against opponent has already played 4 cards.
Right.
That's tough.
Right. And, both players are on a mulligan. I understand why you kind of get in while the getting's good. But really what we want to see from Webb here is something like an Ocelot Pride on the play. You could even talk me into Guide of Souls. And then being able to say, cast a Wear Tear on, or one part of Wear Tear rather, on 2 into another interactive spell on 3, follow that up with a threat or 2. That sort of mix of both pressure and disruption is really the make or break for these energy decks.
One of the most commonly referenced piece of Magic strategy content in the history of the game is, of course, Mike Flores' Who's the Beatdown? And I think that oftentimes we see that distilled into conversations about a matchup, who's the beatdown. When you're playing a deck like Mardu Energy and what you're talking about, this combination of pressure and disruption, it's really an example of how who's the beatdown is not a question about just an opening hand and the matchup. It's something you have to consider turn over turn and what's happening in the game at that time.
Yeah, something I really love, speaking about old writing, I really love a lot of Paulo Vitor Damarosa's articles on fairies in particular. There's one that I want to say it was from the extended fairies era back in the day, where he talked about a turn in which he cast a Vendilion Click, and over the course of a stack fight, who was the beatdown changed 3 times.
I love that.
And it was just so sick to think about. Like, okay, no, the best players are considering this. Not always just every turn, but a lot of game actions where you go, oh, actually they Cryptic Command and they bounce one of my lands. I probably need to figure out how to extend this game to make up this resource deficit a little bit.
That's actually reminiscent a bit of some gameplay we saw from Corey Burkhart yesterday, where
Yes.
we see him trying to he's playing this Grixis mid-range deck, and his big plan to actually close games, he has some Snapcaster Mage stuff going on, but really Psychic Frog is kind of the core of the deck. And the question is, all right, if I have Psychic Frog on the battlefield, am I trying to attack with it? Do I need to fight over protecting the Psychic Frog with my counter spells? Or do I let my first Psychic Frog go just to stop you from overpowering me?
Right. It's really nice where that card does demand an answer. So it then gives you sort of the opportunity to say, all right, am I using this as a piece of cardboard that's going to trade for one of my opponent's interactive pieces and a chunk of their turn? Or is it time for me to enter the sort of protect the queen phase of the game?
Players set here for game number 2. Webb is on 7 cards on the play. Methena down to 5 off of some mulligans. And Webb will open with an Ocelot Pride.
All right. I mean, that is step 1. This is almost exactly what we said a few minutes ago.
Shocking for Sacred Foundry for the cat, down to 17. And Methena will answer that one with a Portable Hole. Also has a Mox Opal. Hollowed Fountain was the land, so Methena is at 18.
Interesting to lead with the opal without a way to use it. This signals to me that Methena might even have another opal in hand and is hoping that this opal might catch some sort of greedy removal spell from Webb.
Yeah, that tracks. And when you're on 5, you kind of really have to pray for those spots.
Yeah, right. This is exactly the sort of, all right, giving your opponent an opportunity to make a mistake.
We will go to Webb for turn number 2. Going to shock in a Blood Crypt down to 15. The Mardu deck definitely long on things that can happen on the second turn of the game.
All right, well, how about Dreams of Steel and Oil?
All right, well, that one certainly seems strong against an opponent that's mulligan so low. We see a second Portable Hole, a Dispatch, and a Darksteel Citadel are the holdings.
Which patch?
So are you thinking what I'm thinking?
No.
I don't even want to acknowledge your jokes. I'm too excited about the idea of making my opponent discard their land.
Hey, exile it. Just heads up. It's Dreams of Steel and Oil. No part of that. Discards a card, so I just...
Oh, so we're going with a second joke that I'm not going to acknowledge, as the Darksteel Citadel will be exiled.
That wasn't a joke. I am telling you what the card does.
Oh, thank you. And we will go to Burke Methena. Ooh. Well, that's a good pickup. Another land. It's going to be Urza's Saga.
It's a land. It's an enchantment. It does it all.
It does it both.
Ooh. Okay, this pause from Webb here, announcing I have Wear Tear. Do I want to get one or two cards?
Oh no.
Luckily for Webb, he does know the holdings for Methena are just a Dispatch and a Portable Hole at this point.
Yeah, the coast is clear. If you want to fuse that Wear Tear.
I can't say if I do, but I have some amount of confidence that Webb do.
Well, land number 3 is Elegant Parlor. So no Wear plus Tear mana on this turn.
That does make it a more interesting decision there if you're in Webb's seat, where if you don't have the third land lined up, you might even want to think, okay, but if I draw a threat, I also want to cast my threat, which Blood Crypt is not really good at doing unless you still have Ragavan in your deck.
Yeah, especially with leaving 1 mana stranded on the previous turn, not committing to the battlefield. Yeah, it's just going to be Wear on the Urza Saga.
I do like the show of patience here at this point. It doesn't feel like Webb can get that punished for it.
Once again, Methena draws a land, Spire of Industry, but nothing doing on the battlefield. Another Surveil land for Webb. It's Raucous Theater. Going to put a Fatal Push into the bin. We'll see if Webb can start committing some threats here now with some mana he can more freely use. Believe I scout in a Johnny in the hand.
Ooh. The pariah himself.
And there is a Johnny. Going to bring a cat token friend. Something to consider. Methena does have that Dispatch in hand, but only 2 artifacts on the battlefield.
Right. The holdings for Webb at this point are Fatal Push and a Wear Tear. So it was weighing, do I want to hold up hitting an enchantment with Wear? Or do I want to hold up this Fatal Push? And at this point in the game, it's pretty unlikely Webb wants to cash in just the enchantment part on something like Urza's Saga.
Nice pickup here from Methena. Here's Tamiyo.
Makes holding up this Fatal Push look really smart.
Yes. Spire of Industry is going to be activated, putting Methena down to 17. Here is that portable hole. Going after the Ajani proper.
There's an interesting decision there for Methena where you could go after the actual token instead of the Ajani because if this portable hole gets destroyed, then we're going to see Webb actually net a token in this exchange. But I have a feeling Methena might be in the spot where he feels priced into actually trying to just attack what's on the table rather than in hope that Webb might just have a land or two in hand or something that can't be done yet.
It's also not clear which of the two threats under the portable hole is stronger between Ajani and Ocelot Pride. Here is that Fatal Push on Tamiyo.
And, Fatal Push being the card in hand, if Methena had that read portable hole going after the token, Webb could even Fatal Push the token to transform the Ajani.
Oh, yeah. Cat's going to rumble in. Life totals are 15 all as we go back to Methena. And Webb not applying too much pressure, giving Methena a little bit of time to try to draw out of this mulligan situation. The draw is just Razor Tried Bridge, though.
Right, and this is the spot that kind of highlights why Webb really wants to have pressure to back up the disruption, because outside of the card, I would say Flage, for the most part, I think Methena's deck being so linear and so many cards in the space of Thoughtcast, Thought Monitor, and so on, I think a top deck war slightly favors Methena, assuming a lot of the lands that they're able to pick up are things like the bridge that are artifacts as well.
Webb's going to fetch up a Shadowy Backstreet, immediately bins an Aramesa. Don't need more of those. Cat rumbles across again, Methena to 13.
Uh-oh. Oh, I thought that was a count of the graveyard from Webb for a second.
Let's see if Methena can have a big draw step here. Looks like the answer is no. Quick draw and a pass back. Cat continues to go to work.
Listen. It's a game of cat and mouse.
It's a game of cat and
You
cat.
never want to be the mouse in that relationship.
Well, what if it's a Tom and Jerry type beat?
I mean, Methena would like that.
Here's Arena of Glory for Webb.
Notably, land number 6. This is getting to the scary part of it almost feeling Splinter Twin-esque, where you can cast Flage for 3 mana and then play your 7th land and escape the Flage with haste, and it just hit your opponent for 15 damage out of nowhere.
Yeah, Flage is already among one of the stronger top decks for Webb, but it's getting to the point, as you're saying, it would be immediately game over. Cat attacks again, Methena to 9. Land number 7 for Webb, but not going to be any Flage shenanigans this turn.
I believe we also know there is still a Wear Tear in Webb's hand.
Methena draws up to 4 cards in hand. We know there's been a dispatch there forever. Not excited to use that on the cat. It's going to go with a 3rd portable hole. All right. We don't really need to keep that cat under that, but that is what it targeted. Back to Webb. Uh-oh. Exerting Arena of Glory.
Ooh.
Three mana. Looks like a Seasoned Pyromancer, and it is. That one's going to have haste from the arena, discarding a Dreams of Steel and Oil and a Galvanic Discharge, brings 2 elementals, and draws 2 cards.
Okay, so there wasn't a Wear Tear then, but one did come off the top now.
Yikes. Pyromancer rumbles across, Methena to 7. time in this game slowly ticking away, though Methena is currently up a game.
Methena really just looking for any draw to effect to get the sort of chain started.
Whip Flare cleans up the battlefield, kind of. You see 5 lands still on tap for Webb.
We might be getting to the point. I am low confidence this Bloodstained Mire has a card it can grab anymore.
Oh, that's an interesting consideration.
Oh, no, there's probably a Godless Shrine.
Well, we're about to find out. Webb believes there's something anyway. Fetching to 11. There's only one basic mountain.
Yeah, there are only 6 lands that Bloodstained Mire can fetch, but Godless Shrine is the 6th.
Perfect. Shocking down to 9. Looks like exiling that Seasoned Pyromancer for those 2 tokens will be the play.
It's not bad. I think that's a Motive that card that's been a little underutilized on the weekend.
When you get into a game like this, you know, when there's just attrition turn over turn, you're chunking in for a little bit of damage all the time, this is a source of a little bit more damage. Source of some good way to fight through attrition.
2 of them.
Methena to 5. Webb does have more action. Here comes the Johnny. Represents a lethal squad for the following turn. So Dispatch is going to exile the Ajani.
Which patch?
Dispatch.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, I didn't know that that one was in the Fallout decks.
It looks cool.
That's very cool art. Is that Shadow Spear?
That is Shadow Spear.
That's Mishra's Bobble. Neither of these cards are really doing anything here just yet. Methena's going to take a look at Webb's top card.
Cleaning up the table a little bit. Shadow Spear is actually a pretty important draw here. So it's funny where it does not look good this turn, but I suspect the games that Methena wins from this point likely involve the card Shadow Spear.
Sure. Yeah, just needs to get a creature to hook it up to.
Right, right.
Here is Wear and Tear, though, going after the portable hole with that Ajani. Ooh, Methena has Force of Negation.
Ooh,
And
okay.
needed to be Force of Negation, not Metallic Rebuke, because Webb had 3 mana.
All right, draw off the bobble. Back to Webb.
Webb has 4 power on the battlefield against Methena on 5. So here comes 4 points. Methena down to 1. Methena giving it to a Whip Player in hand. Ooh, Ocelot Pride. Another creature to get swept up. Some good news for Methena. That Mox Opal meaningfully providing the red mana for this Whip Flare. Yeah, get those out of here.
Okay, all of a sudden, this is a genuine top deck war.
Yes. Methena needs a creature. Does not have it this turn. But, like you were saying, if you can get something hooked up with that Shadow Sphere, it could be huge. Webb just draws and passes. Methena draws. Is it action?
I want to call out how good that Force of Negation was when your opponent has haymakers like that. If you think the game's going to go long, I think Methena might have cut Metallic Rebukes.
Oh,
on
wow.
the draw?
Yeah.
I can see it.
Sure.
If
Tougher to leave up mana when you're on the draw.
And if you don't know how many Wrath of the Skies your opponent has...
Big Oh, is this Kappa Cannoneer? There it is. Kappa Cannoneer on the stack.
Trigger.
Yeah, did you know that when Kappa Cannoneer enters the battlefield, it triggers itself?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
That's a 5/5.
No, that one came up a lot when testing Mage 3.
That's why the card says it now.
It's modified.
Yes.
That was a big theme in Neo.
Shadow Spear, equipped to the Kappa Cannoneer. If this thing gets to attack, that might be game over in the other direction. Webb still might have outs with a Flage. You're talking about that Arena of Glory. That's something to watch here. Big draw step for Lee Webb. Needs something here because Webb is down a game and now finding himself for the first time in game 2 on the back foot.
Oh my God. 1 point. 1 point. This is the thing where if you are a Sacred Foundry player, you lay awake at night thinking about the 1 point.
This is the stuff nightmares are made of.
Where did I miss a point? Mm-hmm. Where could I have gotten one more attack? Could I have played a creature a turn sooner, a turn later? This is maybe, think back to turn 2, turn 3, when Webb did not commit the Wear Tear. Could not then develop a Johnny on turn 3 with the tapped Elegant Parlor.
Oh yeah, you're right. Wear Tear on the Shadow Spear. Okay, that changes the life gain part of the equation. Or wait, we can pay the ward on the Kappa Cannoneer. Maybe go that way. Yeah, from the physical gesturing, I think it might have been pointed at the Shadow Spear, but now we're talking. What are we actually targeting? We'll get confirmation on that. And this looks like Kappa Cannoneer. You have more than enough mana to pay for the ward.
Right. Normally, that card has legally distinct hexproof.
Right.
And in this case, that distinction is extremely legal.
Yes. Yeah, those lands finally doing something. No action. Oh, and there is Flage. All right. Lee Webb is able to tie things up. We are going to see a game number 3 here as our players fight for possession of sole undefeated player on the weekend.
Oh, that was an unbelievable back and forth game. It took the 3rd Wear Tear to actually get there in the end.
Burke Methena on the draw on 5 cards there.
Yeah.
And it was still so close.
It was really competitive. That was one where we also saw a lot of player sideboards come out to play. Right? We saw 3 copies of Wear Tear. We saw a Fatal Push. Unclear where that may have started the match, main board or sideboard. We saw Dreams of Steel and Oil. We saw both Whip Flares from Methena. We saw Dispatch. Just both of these players' decks are doing what they want to do in the matchup, and that's why these games are so intense.
Oh, yeah. And players certainly looks like they're reconsidering sideboarding some stuff with play and draw. You were talking about how it looked like Methena may have boarded out those Metallic Rebukes, had those Force of Negations in on the draw. Mm-hmm. You suspect that maybe that's what he's looking at, or is there anything else to consider here?
I really think that after seeing the texture of that last game, at the point that you're putting Whip Flare in your deck, the more I'm running it through my head, I'm thinking Mana Leak is a much harder pill to swallow whenever you're trying to play 5-6 turns of a game.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, if you're interested in keeping up on all things Magic, as I'm sure you must be if you're joining us here this weekend, go ahead and subscribe to the StarCityGames.com newsletter. It's free. Right. And you can keep up on all of Magic's upcoming releases, upcoming events, Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy on the horizon that I'm very excited for.
Oh, yeah.
SCG-Con Orlando coming up at the end of August, as well as any sales on the website. All this great information you can get at StarCityGames.com/newsletter. It is, I cannot stress enough how free it is.
Literally free. You get all kinds of writings from Nick Miller, from John Hall. Great friends of the broadcast, friends of ours. And it helps you stay up to date on all kinds of different Magic news, from preview season to a rules change coming up with Final Fantasy to the soccer mechanic. All kinds of interesting stuff.
Players taking some time to consult those deck lists. Day number 2 is open deck list. And that really does make the Spotlight series a really good testing ground if you are a player who is looking to level up your game. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to make it to the Regionals Championship and see success in that open deck list field. And we're coming up on some modern RCs here.
And honestly, I've really loved how this Affinity deck has looked in the hands of Burke Methena over the course of this match. This is something that I can imagine, assuming I could play RCQs and not if I did not have the job that I do. Mm-hmm. I could easily imagine myself taking this down to an LGS, playing an RCQ, and just absolutely cakewalking over a bunch of energy players.
Oh, yeah. Urza the Saga is one of those cards where we saw what happened in Game 1, Carmen. Did any other card matter, or was it all Urza Saga?
Yeah,
Refresh my memory.
It sounds to me like your memory is pretty pointed. But no, Urza Saga, really big card. We made a joke where it was, turn 4? We saw a crunch for 13 after Methena had not attacked the whole game or cast a creature spell.
Yeah.
And it was just, okay, I'll make a construct on your instep. It's a 5/5, about to be a 6/6, untap. Make another construct. They're both now 6/6s. Fetch up Lava Spur Boots so I get to attack with both. And then the ward mattered, too.
Right.
Every little bit of this sort of Rube Goldberg machine matters.
Mm-hmm. And there's only so many decks that can really take advantage of Urza Saga, and I don't have enough wrinkles in my brain to pilot Amulet Titan. So this is the people's Urza Saga deck.
Oh, I feel you. No, I like to think of my brain as cute and smooth like a marble. Ooh. Oh, those Vindicates are in for Webb.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. I mean...
On the play?
On the draw?
They're less good on the draw.
Yeah. But we saw Portable Hole do a lot for Methena that last game. So if you think the game is going to go longer, I think having something that versatile, there is a case to be made here.
Actually could have paid for the ward vindicating Kappa Cannoneer in that game.
That would have been vindicating.
Players looking at 7-card hands. See if we can get both players on 7 for the first game this round. And we do. Methena opens up. Shocking and Hollowed Fountain. Shadow Spear?
Pretty nice. We've seen how important that card has been in this match. Both times where you go, oh, wow. If that ever does an attack or helps a creature attack one time, it's huge.
And Webb going to open things up with Ragavan. The first time we've seen that from him in this match, fetching and shocking for it. And we're not in the Ornithopter era. We're not in the Memnite era. So this Ragavan could be pretty strong. We'll see what Methena can do about it.
How about a land, an Urza's Bobbleland?
And nothing. Could have something up, but doesn't have Metalcraft for dispatch. So it's a little tough on that front.
Well, one of the nice things is that a lot of Methena's cards are not really disastrous if Ragavan flips them over. What happens if Webb flips over an Imri, a Kappa Cannoneer?
Yeah.
Lands don't count. Mox Opal's not very good.
Portable Hole is pretty good, though.
Ooh.
Something I also want to point out, it's not really going to be a thing on the first hit, but Ragavan making that treasure, if we see Webb cast this Portable Hole as well, starts to have a threshold of artifacts to take advantage of Affinity and improvise.
Sure.
Here is a Thoughtseize. We take a look at the holding for Methena. It's going to be Whip Flare, Thoughtcast, and 2 Kappa Cannoneers.
Okay, so it looks like the thing that Methena was really considering last turn was if it was time to Whip Flare Ragavan.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Webb, so the Kappa Cannoneers are kind of Thoughtseize proof, right? I don't know if there's any consideration for taking either of those when there's 2 in the hands. I could be wrong, but what are you looking at here?
I think the Whip Flare is really the thing that Webb is going to care about. We saw how important pressure was last game, and I think Webb's hand is a little land light, so continuing the sort of tango of develop and disrupt you is going to be hard when you're choked on mana.
Whip Flare is the take. This is big, though. No second land for Webb, and the treasure is used to cast the Portable Hole.
Hard not to get in while the getting's good on that one.
Ooh, another Portable Hole off of this second Ragavan hit. Methena to 14, and it'll be the land for Methena was Urza's Saga, so that's pretty scary, but Webb does have land number 2 here.
Ooh, and Webb also has Vindicate.
Oh, baby. I like Stone Rain and Urza's Saga.
Yeah, no, and we also see Webb with Showdown of the Scalds in hand. This is something where we can see Webb say, oh, I thought the game was about one thing game 2 and adapt in a big way game 3.
Yeah, I love that. I certainly find myself in that position. It's a matchup I've played maybe once or twice, maybe never, and figuring out, all right, this is what I think it's about in game 2, and readjusting for game 3. I love that.
Right, I find myself thinking about that sort of thing a lot whenever I'm sideboarding in particular, or excuse me, whenever I'm in a top deck war, I'm thinking about how I'm going to sideboard, because nothing else is really happening a lot of the time. So what are you going to think about there?
That was Vindicate on Urza's Saga. Methena just draws and passes back. Regavan now has hit 3 times.
Oh.
Razortide Bridge exiled. Treasure created. Here's another Thoughtseize for Webb. Right, so Metallic Rebuke was picked up. Was in addition to those 2 Kappa Cannoneers and a Thoughtcast.
Oh, is that the card that Webb's going to go for? Interesting.
That is it's going to be the pick is Thoughtcast. Webb decides, all right, I already have my Ragavan. I know about the Rebuke, so I don't have to play too hard into it. As here is Guide of Souls.
Webb notably having that second land last turn, this is exactly that I'm disrupting you and I'm developing a threat in the same turn that Webb really wants to see.
Guide of Souls does resolve. Methena wanted to use that Mishra's Bauble. Does. Looks at Webb's top card. Draws 2 cards. Plays Otawara. Is that Tormod's Crypt?
That is Tormod's Crypt. I suspect this is left in the deck so Saga can KO something like a Flage.
Right.
This is one of the issues where if you have too many bullets in your deck, it's unlikely you draw any one of them. But if you have 5 cards that are like this that you don't really want to draw, you are somewhat likely to trip over 1 or 2 of them over the course of a long match.
Regavan and Guide of Souls rumble in. Methena at a 9. A Metallic Rebuke exiled. Additional treasure created, and here's a second Guide of Souls. Webb now making some energy, gaining some life.
Up to 13.
Kind of some funny texture exiling that Rebuke. Webb's a little bit greenlit to cast a spell with the ability to possibly actually cast that Metallic Rebuke to fight over it.
Whoa.
It's like putting a Regavan on the stack just to trigger these Guide of Souls post-combat. Gonna get 2 energy and 2 life for that. Rebuke permanently exiled as we go to Methena, who really needs to do something about this battlefield. Gonna start with Pithing Needle?
That is Pithing Needle. Again, I can imagine why it's in the deck, right? If your opponent has Goblin Bombardment in, then you might want to grab it off Urza's Saga. My suspicion is Webb cut those.
Yeah, we certainly haven't seen it in this game as the Guide of Souls going to turn sideways with that Regavan, going to use that energy. One of the Guide of Souls grows to a 3/4 flyer. We have 3, 4, 5, 6 points coming across. Methena down to 3.
Oh, Pithing Needle's an Ajani card. Great. That makes way more sense. It's not going to help here.
Webb's going to drum up a basic mountain here. A little conversation about Regavan making a treasure token. A card was exiled, and you cannot half resolve an effect.
Sure.
So you cannot miss a trigger that you have acknowledged.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So there is that 3rd treasure.
Can't reveal to your Dark Confidant and not lose the life, you know?
Right. But we are going back to Methena. And does not have it. Lee Webb. And this innovative take on energy, the Mardu energy spin with those Dreams of Steel and Oil coming in clutch against this artifact deck is now our sole undefeated player in the field.